Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday and welcome to my stream. It is time for another creative class. My name is Lhey Ralston, or some of you may know me as Mommy Lhey. Hello there. We are also streaming live both on YouTube and on Facebook. So before we get started, I would like to take a few moments to welcome everybody. Hello. And say hi to everyone joining us today. Please do let me know. Let us know in the comment section where everyone is joining us from. You may also use the comment section to, say hello to everybody, to one another. We all belong in the same community. We might as well all get acquainted, and become friends. After all, this will be a weekly get together for all of us every Wednesday, one day out of the week, a moment that we dedicate to our inner child to play, to create, and to learn. Truly, it is a beautiful thing. So thank you for joining me and allowing me to be a part of your creative journey. I'm broadcasting live from Texas. It is definitely another warm and sunny day today, guys. And I trust that everyone is doing well and in great spirits. So, hello there, everybody. I'd like to say hello and welcome to everyone. Hello, Laquita. Hey, Emma. Okay, so Emma is joining us from, okay, YouTube. Hello there. Hey, Angie. Oh my goodness. Hello there. Welcome, welcome. Wow. Oh my gosh, you guys. Laquita is joining us from Tennessee. Sarah is here as well. Hello, Sarah. How are you? Thank you for being here. Thank you, Emma. I'm so happy that you're here today. Oh my gosh, you guys, this is going to be really exciting. We're going to have lots of fun. Hey, Tina, my neighbor, well, from almost 3.5 hours away, but Tina is joining us from Austin. Yay, yay. Hello, everybody. Okay. And also, before we dive in, I just want to take a moment to thank our amazing sponsor, Faber-Castell USA. They have been a trusted name in this art world, in this industry for over 260 years. My gosh. They are known for creating high quality, reliable, and beautifully designed supplies for artists of all ages and all levels. Of course, from their, iconic pencils to their innovative mixed media products we all love, Faber-Castell continues to support creativity in all forms. And I am so honored to be working with them, guys. And these weekly classes wouldn't be possible without their support. So from myself and from all of us here, thank you, Faber-Castell USA. Okay, in today's lesson, we'll be learning how to draw some adorable kawaii macaroons. Mwah! Mwah! And we're going to do a little bit of mixed media magic, of course, with my favorite Faber-Castell supplies and products. We'll be using the following materials. We're going to be using Goldfaber sketch markers. These are alcohol markers, perfect for some vibrant colors. We'll be using the Faber-Castell Polychromos pencils. We're going to create some textures and, do some detail work. Of course, a pencil and some eraser for some sketching fun. And I'll be using a Bristol vellum paper pad today, okay? All right, so grab your supplies and draw along with me today. Let's get started. Okay. All right, so hi Jessica, joining us from New Jersey. Hello there. All right. Okay, guys, so today I have my pencil and a good eraser. We're going to need some eraser because I love sketching. Before we get started, I really want to say this before we start sketching. It's always advisable, should I say advisable? It's Yes. Well, I've heard a lot of people that says, if you're going to do a lot of erasing, you should probably really be sketching in a copy paper and just, a regular copy paper, and then just transfer it to whatever surface you'll be working on, like, a mixed media paper or watercolor paper. I must admit, guys, I do a lot of sketching and I do a lot of erasing. We talk about this all the time. And I just need to start that habit. I need to start sketching on a copy paper and then just transfer it, trace it again in my whatever surface you're working on. But I just need to say that out loud because I will not be a good teacher if I don't say that. Okay, so like what I said, we'll be working with some alcohol markers today. On my left, I have the sketch markers. These are from Faber-Castell alcohol markers. They do have a little bit of smell. You have to get used to the alcohol markers, but any brands out there, if it's alcohol markers, you get a little bit of that smell. And then I have my favorite Polychromos pencils here on my right because we're going to be using it to add some textures and some contrast, do a little bit of rendering that way. Okay, and then I think I'm going to use my 4B pencil just because sometimes it's a little difficult to see, the camera to pick up the sketching. So I am going to sacrifice for you guys. But if you have a regular HB pencil, just use that, it's easier to erase it later on. But because for you, I will be using a 4B pencil today. So we're going to be creating 3 macarons, kind of like stacked on top of one another. Now, there are many different ways that we can sketch this. And you can draw this realistically. And what you can do is if you don't want it to look kawaii, I mean, you can totally just skip the kawaii faces, but I love kawaii things and I love it and they're so cute. So that's what I'm going to do today. Okay, so we can get started by just drawing a rectangle, but in a vertical if you want. So this will be just kind of like our guide. I'm going to use my HB pencil in here just so it's not so, you know, it's not going to be too dark. So this is just my HB pencil. I just want to make sure that we have our guide and how the width of the macaroons and all that. Okay, and then from here, we're going to draw circles inside. I already have, I think I was playing with too much medium today, and I have a few things in my hand, so I know I'm going to get my page dirty. And let me zoom in just a little bit so you can see it much better. And then let's do this. There we go. Sarah, did you do your outline already again? My goodness. It's okay. All right, so we want to draw oval. So we're going to make 3 ovals in here so that we can stack them all together. And this will be the shape of each of our macaron. Does that make sense? So we want to make sure that we're just going to go from edge to the bottom. And we want to make sure that 3 macaroons will fit in our rectangle, right? So, and if you want to turn this into a bookmark, you can just fuzzy cut around the macaroons later, and then you can use it as a bookmark. But if you're going to use it as a bookmark and you're going to put some ribbon, make sure that you have a little bit of space on top for that. But okay, just so everybody knows that I fuzzy cut very, very slow. So that will take us forever. So we're just going to skip that part. You guys can do that later by yourselves. The most important thing is to illustrate our fun macaroon today. I'm not so sure about my division in here. I've never been good at math, but I think my top macaroon will be a little smaller. I'm not sure. I love to eyeball things. Let me know in the comment section if you love using ruler or, making sure that everything is like perfect. I am a lazy artist. I love to just eyeball things, kind of like, okay, I think it's going to fit. I think it's going to fit. And then it's like, oh, that did not fit. It's too bad. Okay, but I think we're good. And I don't know if it's my camera, if it's my paper, but I feel like everything is kind of like tilted a little bit. I don't think so. Maybe it's not. Oh, and I used my HB pencil. I lied. Oh my goodness, I'm so bad. All right, so now that we have divided the rectangle, our guide here, into three, now each of the ovals, eyeball it. There you go. I have Laquita here. I know she's gonna be on my side. I love to eyeball things. Yeah, yeah, no problem. Sarah said, not as a bookmark. Okay, no problem. Yeah, you don't have to turn it into a bookmark. It's just really however you want to use the macaroons. If you're a planner, I have a lot of friends that are doing a lot of planner stuff. And if you're a journaler, you can use this as a dashboard or just kind of, decorate your planners and your journals. Jessica said she loves to eyeball it too. High five. Me too. And Emma said too, I like to eyeball my art. I know there's something exciting about kind of like you're unsure of things. I don't know. It's just me. Okay. All right. So now that we have divided into three, remember I said that my top macaroon might be a little smaller. Now that I'm looking at it from my angle here, I usually have to look at it from the top, but you're going to see all my grays on the top of my head. We don't want to say that. So I'm just going to just look at it from here and I'm just going to go trust my camera angle. But I feel like that's bigger. Am I wrong? Maybe the bottom is bigger? I don't know. Okay, so now the next thing to do is we're going to divide, kind of like to think of it as a hamburger, like a sandwich, right? So basically there's two parts of the macaroon, the top, but the top they're not equal parts, right? But you can turn it into equal if you want to, the top and the bottom, but most of the time the top part of the macaroon is kind of like the hamburger buns. It's much thicker, right? And the bottom of the hamburger buns also is, partly smaller and thinner. So basically the macaroons is the same thing. The bottom part is where that filling, the sweet filling. I don't know if you guys love macaroons. I don't like every macaroons, especially depending on the flavor, and also who made it, because it's just sweet. Basically, it's sugar, right? But they're so cute. They're so fun to look at. Some of them really are good. I love pistachio, and then I love mocha or peanut butter also. But there are some flavors that are just way too sweet. Okay, so let's divide each oval here into three parts. So basically, like what I said, we have the top part and we have the middle part, which is the filling. How I like to do things, and you don't have to do it this way, but I kind of like to create another oval, like a squished oval right in the middle. And this is going to be my filling. So it's just kind of like this, because I know that's where my filling is going to be. Now I'm using the 4B so you guys can see it much better. Just kind of like that. See, it's kind of like it's like a planet also. I'm looking at this way too. Angie said that she likes to eyeball things too. High five, Angie. I know it. Okay. So I'm gonna do that same thing here in my second one. We're just gonna go draw a really, really stretched oval right here. And then over here in my third and last, we're gonna create this last one. You never tried a macaroon, Sarah? Oh, you should. I mean, just once, like what I said, it's a little sweet, but I think it's good. I mean, it just depends on the mood. My daughter and I love to treat ourselves every once in a while because they are a little bit sweet. Okay, so now that we have our macaroons stacked in here, we can start erasing things if you would like. Okay, my doggies are barking. They are really loud when it's like they're welcome home, someone's coming home. So, all right, I'm gonna start erasing now our rectangle, our very first guide. I don't know, it just helps me visually to just kind of like make things a little cleaner. I know a lot of great artists just kind of like leave their sketch just like, just messy sketch, and I commend them. I wish I can do it, but in my head I'm like, I can't. I just have to kind of just fix it as I'm moving along. Okay, so now that I have the middle, I know the top part, the middle part, and all that. I'm going to start using my kneaded eraser in here. I really love the kneaded eraser just to kind of like lighten all my sketch in here. So all I do is just kind of like roll it on top of my sketch. And this way, it really does, oops, it really does help it to just lighten that sketch without making a whole lot of eraser suds. But this is why I have my desktop vacuum in here, desk vacuum. I shouldn't say desktop. My desk vacuum from Faber-Castell because, like I said, I do a lot of sketching, and that's why. All right, so the paper that I'm using today, I think I've mentioned it. It's a Bristol vellum. Because the Bristol vellum has a little bit of texture and it's going to be good for our pencils today. Oop, even though my pencils are like transferring. Huh, wonder why. All right, so now that we have that, I'm just going to use my 8-4. I'll just use my HB pencil. Okay, guys, can you see it? Now it's really light, but okay. So all we're gonna do is the top part most especially is we're going to make this one really perfect curve over there on top. The second and the last, not so much because we have that, the macaroon setting on top of it, right? So all we're going to do is from here, all the sides, we're going to create like a little curves on both ends from here, like this. So we're just going to curve it. I'm going to go zoom in. Oops. I always do that. I said I'm going to zoom in and then the camera starts zooming it out. So see, just a little bit of curves. So we're going to do that on each side, like that. And then from the bottom also. Now, again, like what I said, you can decide if you want to make your bottom just slightly smaller or, just keep it like this way. It makes it cuter anyways. It looks more like fluffy um, and more kawaii. Because we're not trying, I personally am trying not to aim for, perfection, that realism. I'm looking for more kawaii, adorable, that look. So I feel like if having all at least two of the parts fluffy, the top and the bottom, I think it looks cuter. So I'm going to go over here and do the same. So we're just going to curve everything. It's so crazy when we start, doing sketch and things like this. Sometimes when we look at the bigger picture, it gets overwhelming, like almost like I can never draw that because I don't know. For some of you who's maybe just now, joining my classes and my stream, I was never, an artist. I was never gifted with this gift of art. I'm just self-taught and, I really just practice. And the thing that I have learned is that breaking it down this way, and that is why I love to teach this way. I like to really show my students how you can just break down an image into just basic shapes. Because all we did was, a vertical, a rectangle shape, 3 oval shape, and then we added another oval. So break it down step by step. It really does help. It helps my brain, at least for me, personally. It's like looking at it. I never get overwhelmed anymore, no matter what it is that I am trying to illustrate, because I just break it down in my head. Oh, that's just an oval, or it's just a square, so it really does help a lot, a whole lot to do that. Okay, so while I'm adding those curves, I'm also refining some parts of my sketch, just like that. Oh, so Emma said, I love macaroon, especially chocolate and passion fruit. You know what? I need to try that now. It sounds really yummy. I haven't tried a passion fruit flavor. And speaking of the flavors, now you guys decide what colors you're going to use for your macaroons today to color them in. As you can see on my desk, I have some pinks. I was thinking kind of like a strawberry flavor. And then I have purple. This is going to be for the purple yam or the ube in the Philippines. We call it ube. It's really, really good. And then I also have some green for some pistachio. I think it's going to be really yummy. Now I'm thinking like pistachio, and then you have this dark chocolate inside. Ooh, that sounds really good too. Okay, so all I'm curving right that. It is so good. Okay, I really gotta try it now. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I have that. I feel like this one is a little too wide. Look at this is the perfect time to just kind of like analyze your work here. Looking at this, I'm looking at it. This is the only part here that I want to change, because I feel like my top part seems like a little bit wider. I think it's I think it's okay, but we can adjust it. I mean, maybe I'll adjust it just a little bit. Just a little bit. I'm just going to go bring it in just a little bit. There you go. I feel like that's much better. Every time I would start erasing, I feel like my desk, there's something squeaking in here. Some parts of the screws are like loose. I don't know, guys. I know, Laquita, I'm getting hungry too, thinking of all these sweets, this yummy dessert. I'm getting hungry as well. Okay, I think we're good. We'll break that down. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start slowly adding some texture because we really are not going to see that full part of the filling in the middle. What we're going to do is we're going to start adding some, this is really funny, but we're going to add some kind of like, it's not really wavy. You can make it wavy, but more like a jaggedy line. So we're going to do jaggedy line here, and I'm going to show you first, and then you can follow along. But from here, remember all the curves? We're going to start bringing it out just a little bit, just like this. See how little that is? That's really, really little. And then we're going to start adding that jagged line. And it's not a perfect jagged line, almost like up and down, because that's where the texture of that macaroon is. And so I'm going to do this one, and instead I'm going to go bring it out also slightly, just bringing the lines out like that. And then I'm going to start adding that jagged line as well. And notice how I'm holding my pencil not so close here, because every time that I want to create a looser line, not so tight, not so controlled, I try to hold it kind of like in the middle and almost a little close to the end of the pencil. So this is where I can just try to ease up on that control that I have over my pencil. Okay, so I'm gonna go do a little bit outside also. It's like that. And so it's like I'm almost just, look at the, letting my pencil just roll around my finger. Look at this to create that jagged line. Just like that. And like what I said, the lines aren't perfect. I'm just letting them just kind of like go upside down. There's not enough, the edge where I go down and go up are not the same. Just to make it more natural. And I'll do the same thing here. Like that. And I'll do the same. Curve it out. Just like that. Oh gosh, I'm getting really, really hungry now. Okay, now I'm gonna go, while I'm waiting for you guys, waiting on you, I'm gonna go clean up just a little bit of my sketch. There's like little tiny mice on my desk because they're making quick, 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 quick. I have to get my husband fix this desk. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go add those fills again, just like that. This one, and then this one. Yum, yum. Goodness. Now I really am getting hungry. I think last time we did a class, like a live class, we did some donuts. Oh, then I started craving for donuts. It was so bad. Now I'm gonna start craving for macarons. Okay, so how's everybody's sketch? All good? All good? Now from here, I'm gonna start adding just a little bit. Look at my lines also, just jaggedy lines as well, and just connecting it to the top. See that where we curved it out? So from here to the other end. This is just to visually help me that I'm gonna add some contrast in here later on. Like that. It's almost, this part is like um the crusty part. It really isn't crusty. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to bake, guys. You know why I don't know how to bake? I have a problem with um following instructions. I love to cook because, like, how I like to eyeball things, with in art, that's the same way with cooking. I love cooking because I love playing around. I don't like measurements. That's why my daughter is like, Mom, can you please teach me how to cook, Filipino meals and all that. And she's asking how much of this. I'm like, I don't know, just put it in. Because I never measure anything. I'm like, that's how I love to cook. Okay, doing well. Looks okay, Emma. Great. All right. So again, this seems like counter productive, but I'm gonna start erasing again my sketch. I know, I know. Sometimes they're like, why? Why would you? But you need to lighten it. But if you want to keep it there, gosh, by all means, you can. Because it really adds some texture also. And I know a lot of amazing, great artists who just kind of like leaves their sketch under sketching visible. And it does add to the, kind of like texture of the final project. But I have some problems with that. I don't know. I can't. All right, so I'm just going to clean up the sides and all this. Just enough. We're not going to really fully erase it. Just kind of like lighten my sketching because we're going to add some pencils in there anyways. Okay? All right. I know it's hard to see it. See, looking at this now, I really feel like the top is the biggest one. I don't know what I was thinking earlier. Okay, now to decide which flavor is which. I think I'm going to put the green in the middle of the pistachio. We'll have the purple, the ube for me. I'll do some purples in here. And then I'll have my strawberry flavor or raspberry, or cherry. You can, whichever flavor we have. And so for the underpainting or for the base colors, I'm going to use my sketch markers. I love using alcohol markers because there's no drying time. They dry quickly and it's beautiful. It creates this beautiful light wash underneath without having to wait. If I'm using watercolors is just absolutely divine and it's one of my favorite mediums. But unfortunately you have to wait for the drying time. Even if I use like the heating tool, it's not the same. It's just not the same. All right. So I'm going to use light magenta 119. This is the color that I'll be using. This would be my bottom ube over here. And I'm going to start just coloring. It doesn't have to be perfect, this color. And the alcohol markers, the way they work is they're so beautiful. The way that the paper absorbs the alcohol ink, it's so pretty that you're not left with, a lot of brush strokes. Now, of course, I love that type of look as well, just depending on the project that I'm working on. But when I want to avoid the brush strokes, then I will definitely reach out for my alcohol markers, because this is what alcohol markers are so good, is that you're not gonna look at this. It's like getting absorbed by that paper just so beautifully. It's like, I don't know how to explain it. It's just the way it settles and dries on the paper. Now, like what I said, this Bristol right here, the vellum, has a little bit of texture, and that's why I'm kind of like working my markers in here, because there's some hills and valleys on the paper, even though there's not a whole lot. It's not like a cold press paper, you know, like if you're using a watercolor paper, the cold press is the one that's really textured. This one is very similar to maybe a hot press, you know, more of a hot press. Right. Now, what I didn't think of is going to be what I'm going to color the crusty, or that mini part that we've created. So what I am going to try and do would be to do a little bit of my favorite, kind of like a tip to tip action of my um, my sketch marker. So basically I'm going to use the light marker, the light magenta, and then I have the purple violet here. All I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of like almost like picking up some of the color of the purple violet here, and then I'm going to start using that, because basically I don't want this to be so dark. I want the purple violet to be the filling, but I need a little bit of contrast. However, we're going to add that anyways with our pencil later on, but it's almost like this is going to be an added texture already. And also visually, it does remind me that, okay, that one part right there, you can see where there's a little bit of contrast. That's where we're going to add our pencils later on. You know what? I'm going to take any help, every help that I can get, because I'm getting older, and we're going to take every help. So it's almost like just pre-planning everything in my head right here. And plus we're building textures. And so this is our first like part of texture. There we go. And then we're just going to use the purple violet in the center, or the filling of our macaroon. Yum, yum, yum. So the Goldfaber sketch markers, for some of you who may, you know, probably haven't used it yet or haven't heard of it, these are dual tips. So most of the alcohol markers that I have tried before, they have dual tips also, but they have like a chiseled end. This one actually has a fine tip. It's a 0.6. So, you know, if you have like small, tiny details that you need to color or you need to add to your illustration, it's really, really handy to have that. And then if you need to cover larger areas, and this is where, you know, this brush tip is perfect for. So I'm using the brush tip to color in this part right here. Also, if you have an acrylic or acrylic marker, you may grab some of those, because we're going to add a little bit of highlights later on. If you have like the gelatos or pastel, and this is for mixed media. it's just so fun. It's so fun to use mixed media because there's so many different layers and there's so many different ways that you can add color to your project doing that. I love it. I love doing mixed media. Some are saying it's almost like cheating. I don't go for that. I think it's just fun. Okay, now I'm gonna use my light earth green. This is 314. I'm gonna go start coloring in my second macaroon. Yum. One day we're gonna manifest this. We'll be having macarons in Paris. In Paris. Oui, 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 oui. Okay. Am I the only one who likes to color sometimes like that? I think that's been carried on since I was a kid. I like to do the outline first and then, fill the whole space in. So not always, but I catch myself doing it. Because earlier, I don't think we did that technique when I colored my purples. But this time, we're going to be like a little kid again. Do the outline first. And then color that whole image. Okay, so for this green, I do have a couple of colors in here. So I don't really have to use the darkest. Actually, that's not the darkest I have. The darkest I have is the olive green yellowish. As you can see here, oops, sorry, because now I'm zooming in. I'm trying to zoom out. Now it zooms in. Are you kidding me? Okay. So as you can see here, I did a little bit of swatching. So I have 4 in here. I can actually just use the earth green yellowish for my filling. I feel like the olive green yellowish is a little too dark. Okay, so I have light, medium, and dark, right? Of the same green, different values. I use the lightest. Now I'm going to use the middle and I'm just going to add it for that little crusty thingies. Like that. And I'm just going to add jagged lines. You don't have to thoroughly really follow that initial sketch as long as you just have your guide, you know, doesn't have to be perfect. You can just kind of like go over on top of that light color and then just do your jagged lines. There we go. I feel like the middle one is like bursting with the filling. Now I'm going to use the darkest one. This is the leaf green. I think I did the opposite, guys. I really think I did. Oh my goodness. I think that's my darkest, and the leaf green is the middle one. What was I thinking? Now I'm going to end up using that. I don't think so. That doesn't look good. This is what happens when you guys talk. Not you, but me. When I talk so much, then I just end up doing the wrong thing. Yep, definitely that was my middle color. Oh well. We're gonna live with a mistake. It's okay. It is okay. And I already did a swatches so that I would know my colors. Because what I was gonna say next is that you should make swatches of your markers so that you know the colors, so that you don't accidentally pick out the wrong color. Oh, the irony of it all. The irony of it all. It should have been, see, the leaf green should have been in those. Okay. But it's okay. I'm gonna live. My pistachio is gonna live. I'm going over with the darkest, just kind of like creating contrast and there. Spelling the jagged lines. All right, we're gonna add more later. All right, and then my pink, for my pink, I'm gonna use a dull beige red 382. You can see it here. This is like very light coral color. And then I really couldn't find any middle color because the next one that I have is the middle purple pink already, because look at that contrast from this. That's really intense, right? And then I do have, I think this one is the permanent carmine, which is a bit more red instead of this one. It has a bit of that violet, you know. So maybe I should just use this dull beige and then use a permanent carmine. And then we're going to use the pencils to create our contrast later on. Yeah. No, you are not the only one, my friend. Look at me being caught today. Oh my goodness. Okay, so we're just gonna color, and I'm just gonna color the whole thing except for the middle because we're just gonna add some contrast using some pencils later, since I feel like it's just too much of a jump from this one to the middle purple pink. And it's just a little bit of different tones as well. This is more like a red, you know. The middle purple pink has that purple shade to it. We're going to see if I'm going to regret this later. You guys are with me anyways. I feel like I'm okay. Jagged, jagged lines. So I feel like this one now should be like more like a cherry. I don't know. Maybe strawberry. I love strawberry macaroons too, because this the sour almost like it really does balance that that sweetness. So I can imagine that passion, is it passion fruit? Will be the same thing. But, ooh, this one is drying up already, my marker. But just kind of like go over it over and over and let that paper get really saturated with color. Yes. So even though when I'm doing like small tiny strokes like that, just look how still smooth the way the inks are going to get absorbed. So much fun. Going over here. Okay, now that we have our base colors in here, we want to decide where our light source is coming from. You know, it's really important to decide where your light source is coming from, because then you can decide where your contrast and your highlights are going to be. Okay. I feel like I want almost like have it where the light source is coming right smack in the middle, almost like a spotlight. So that means our light will be, our contrast would be on both sides of the macarons, because we have the brightest in the center, if that's what we want. I feel like that's a good, fun look. These little tiny yummy models. Sweet macarons. You're so yummy. I remember when I was, you know, trying to learn, and I tried to draw macaroons, and it was not good, guys. I wish I could find my old sketchbooks, but they're in the storage. still in Arkansas. And so one day we're gonna go through my my failed sketchbooks. But it's really fun. I always encourage, my students to just have sketchbooks because having a sketchbook will really help you see the progress, you know? It really does. And it inspires you, because then you're going to see the progress in there and your own progress. You're basically just, you know, creating, creating a comparison between your past self and your present self. Does that, make sense? Instead of just kind of like always comparing yourself to other people's progress. All I did here was just kind of like use the same color that we used for the filling, and I'm just picking up a little bit of that, and I'm slowly adding contrast now. So I'm going for that center spotlight look. So as you can see, I'm adding my contrast on both ends of my macaroons. Just using the brush to almost like a flickering right smack in the middle, just like that. So this is going to be our highlight, where our highlight is going to be right in the middle of each of the macaroons, right? And so again, I'm just picking up more colors, and I'm going to slowly build my contrast in here. Now, when it comes to rendering or adding contrast and highlights, in your work, it truly is up to you how much time you want to really put in the work, because no one can tell you to stop. That's the thing with rendering, is that you can just keep going forever because you feel like you can just add a little bit more here, add a little bit more there. And that's what happens to me too. Sometimes I just kind of like just need to step away from whatever it is that I'm doing. Like, okay, that's enough. I am done. So that, my friend, is going to be up to you how much work you will really want to put in there. I feel like this one is like needs a little bit more like attachment to that. I don't know. And then this one as well. We're just going to add that. Okay, so that's it for my top. And then we're going to add some pencils for more contrast. But I feel like I'm ready to add the cuteness in here. But how's everybody doing? How are your macaroons? I'm going to go clean up over here. Then we're going to use our Polychromos pencils to add some fun contrast. Ooh, I feel like this one really does need a little bit. I don't know. But probably macaroons are not perfect also. But we're just going to add it because I know it's going to bother me anyway, so I might as well just fix that. Which color? I'm so sorry, Angie, I didn't see. The pink? Which one? So the light one is the dull beige red 382, and then the dark pink is the pink carmine. I'm sorry, permanent carmine 126. So the light is the dull beige red 382, and then permanent carmine 126. All right. Okay. So now, as you can see, I have a little bit of marks, pencil marks, and this is how I like to kind of like plan it in my head, which ones I'm doing and which ones I'm adding and all that. So before I started the class, I'm just going to add a little bit here. Like that. I did pick my pencils already, which one will add, a little bit of contrast, give me some contrast from my light color. And I went ahead and picked up violet and also the purple violet. And if I want to add more dark and more contrast, I also picked up the mauve color. So these are the three that I have for my violets. And then for my pistachio flavor, I have the lightest I have is the earth green yellowish. The middle one is permanent green, and then the darkest that I have is permanent green olive. I need to sharpen this one a little bit. Okay. Did your dark purple in the bottom of a macaroon? That's what Sarah did. Perfect. Oh, we have the same. Okay, and so for my pinks, I feel like since I'm not using the middle purple pink anymore, I didn't end up using it, I can go ahead for my light. I have the lightest, um, I feel like this is the old names because I have really old ones. I bought this a long, long time ago. It says dark flesh, but I'm pretty sure the name of this one is different now. And then, because this is the lightest one, but it still gives a little bit of contrast. See, for the dull beige red, I think it's still going to be good. I also have rose carmine, which is, you know, slightly darker. And then I feel like I'm going in with the dark red for more contrast. Yeah, that's for sure. So again, maybe old name, dark flesh is what I have, a rose carmine, and dark red. All right, so those are what we have. Okay, I'm gonna go put those aside so I don't get confused. And then I also have dark indigo later if you want to add more contrast with all of this. So we can use a dark indigo there. It's okay, Sarah, whatever have, you know, a darker, slightly darker pencil that you have. It doesn't have to be the same exact pencils. You can use those just to add a little bit of contrast in your render for your macaroons. And so this one is, I can still feel that the paper is still wet. So probably I'll hold off in this one. Yeah, it's still slightly wet, but it's going to be okay. But we'll just be patient. We'll just go in with our green. Okay, so I'm going to use the earth green yellowish. And here where the top macaroon is, we're going to build a bit of contrast in there. Even though, remember, our spotlight is in the center, but we're still going to add some contrast in there because the two macaroons are touching, right? So you just want to build that. And notice how I'm holding my pencil. I'm not holding it right here. Okay, I'm not, because I want to be really light on my pressure because I have heavy hand pressure. It's crazy. And I'm practicing, I promise. So when I'm holding it this way, I have a bit more control of how much pressure I use to add my pencils. See? And I'm just slowly in here, getting in here. And we're going to do both sides of the macaroons over here. Emma, thank you so much. It's my pleasure. I'm gonna go over here and add this one. When you're working with pencils, the key to this is really just patience. And like what I said in the beginning, it's up to you how much rendering you want to add to your illustration. You know, we could have just stopped here with the alcohol markers, which is really perfect already. But I love seeing some of that texture of the pencil. Again, it is personal preference, you know, because art is subjective. It really depends on the type of art that you like, what type of texture. You might not, you know, love this texture of the pencils. You just want it smooth and, you know, very kind of like smooth gradient or just a smooth blend, what we get from the alcohol markers. Then stop there, add your kawaii faces, and you're good to go. But me, I just want to show you that you can build your textures as well. Add a little bit more visual interest in here and add your contrast slowly. So I added with my light, right? I started with that light. Now I'm going in with my middle color. This is the permanent green 266. These are the very first Faber-Castell products that I have purchased. The Polychromos pencils. I just love these pencils. These are oil-based. And this one has a very strong core. You know, it is not the softest pencils because they are not wax based. Now the wax based pencils, they are softer, the core is softer, but there's pros and cons with everything, right? Because, you know, that's life. um, so I have tried different pencils. I love different pencils, but I just cannot stand it when my pencils keep breaking. You know, it's just because of the core. This one uses a very strong bonding and the type of wood. You know, I know this by heart. I can't remember it right now. But that's the one thing. And it keeps the point sharp for a long time. These polychromos are the best. So when you like adding, you know, details to your illustration using a pencil, I I promise you the polychromos will be the best choice because it keeps that sharp point for a long time. It is truly one of the best pencils that I have tried. You know, again, like what I said, it is not the softest. If you were looking for the softest, you know, this is not the softest one, but how the oil base, because it's an oil-based pencil, the way it works is that you can just keep layering without building, because the gunk from the wax, you know, after a while, after adding too many layers in there, you won't be able to blend it as smooth as you would like because of that wax finish. And, you know, it just makes sense because the other pencils are wax based. But I feel like with this oil base, you just can just keep going, and it's like how I can still blend and add contrast in here, and my gosh, it's really the best. All right, so we're just gonna add more contrast in here. And if you want to really render, you can go in the middle of the filling, I mean on the top of that filling, you can just add some dark in here, almost like where the layers are touching. Imagine the layers are like stacked on top of one another, right? So that's where we need to add that contrast right there, because it's like adding some, there's they're stacked, so they're touching. So we want to add some contrast to really show that visually that those are layers are like touched and connected. So this is the, sorry, permanent green olive, this dark green right here that I'm using. Just like that. See how that contrast is from this, right? Because we haven't added anything yet. And I'm just going to go in and when it comes to pressure, notice how I'm holding it close now because I'm adding a little bit more pressure than I was earlier. And I really want to get into those little tiny corners in there carefully, so I hold it close to the tip of the pencil, just like that. And so when I want more control, I'm going to hold it closer to the tip. And then when I am applying the pencil right here, I'm going in almost like a circular motion, right? So I'm not going back and forth like this. It's a circular, small, tiny circular strokes like that. Except for if I'm going to have to line this in, then that's where I'm going to do like short strokes, almost like a back and forth motion. But over here, it's circular motions. All right, we're going to bring it in the middle, right here. So when I use watercolors, I also love using pencils to bring back some of that details that, you know, you want to really highlight. Pencils are the best. I'm going in with my middle color again, so the permanent green again, and I'm going over every single thing. Notice how I'm holding the pencil again, just so you can see that we're trying to ease up on that pressure. All right, and then I'm going in with my lightest, and then we're going to go blend everything and still letting the pencil do the magic, you know? So I'm just going to go light. I'm just going to bring everything together. And I'm going to go lighter here, much, much lighter in the center, because we really want to keep that highlight right there, that lightest. That would be our lightest area. Just like that. See how difference of this middle, because this is where we've rendered really compared to the other two. I mean, both are really, really good, but you know, if you really want to add some realism, even though this is a kawaii, you know, illustration, just add a little bit of pencil, have some patience because it really does take some time. But this is where you're taking your illustration to almost like the next level. I don't like saying that, but you know, it just really adds another layer of artistic value to it. I mean, the first layer we did was just perfect enough, but you know, if you want to just kind of like add something more to it, then render. Add your contrast and add your highlights, because this is where the illustration becomes, you know, comes to life by adding, it's not so flat looking. You're adding some contrast to it, almost becoming, you know, is it 3D or 2D? More like a 2D, I think, here. But you're just adding, all you're adding is just adding dark and light value to your illustration to show where the light is hitting it and, you know, where the shadows are. Again, this is where it takes the most time, but this is what changes the illustration, is that when you start rendering and adding some contrast, it doesn't have to be perfectly detailed. You can just add a little bit, show the dark value and the light value. And this is how I like to do the blending, is like I like to do the light, medium, and the darkest, and I just slowly work my way in there and then just really add in. And I'm going my lightest again. I'm going over everything just to kind of like blend everything together. And I love that pencil texture right there. I just love it. I'm going lightest, my lightest here. So I'm going really light on my pressure. Just like that. So you have that, oh, look at that, perfectly situated right smack in the middle. So I'm going in with my lightest, middle, and dark. I'm going in with my lightest first just to add my first layer. And I'm going to go work slightly faster. Trust me, even without you here, I work really slow, guys. I love to take my time. I don't know, I really love to take my time when I'm doing my art. And then remember that you can move your canvas. You can move your, you know, your surface like this, instead of just kind of like bending your arms in a very awkward way. It's going to give you cramps. It's not good for you. Art is, you know, it's not supposed to hurt. So just take it easy. Going in here and adding my lightest. This is just my light. Going in. I'm going to add some here too, to the where they're touching the two macaroons. I think this is more like a cherry just because of the color now. It doesn't feel like a strawberry. And I'm keeping my lightest value right smack in the middle. All right, I'm going in with my middle. This is the rose carmine. Just like that. And I'm working fast if, because I try not to keep you forever. But if it's just me, I would have taken forever. I would have probably finished, I don't know, 3 episodes of a show. This is my favorite part, the rendering, because it really just, really elevate the art when you start playing with your lights. The values of the colors. I'm going to go in with my darkest. This time I'm going to take a little bit of my time just so it doesn't look so rushed. I'm just going to go be careful. Here, and a little bit here, and then we're going to add some there also later. What we added in that filling, where the layers are touching. Here. And then if you have, if you just did the alcohol markers and you just want to add a little bit of highlight, remember I mentioned the acrylic markers. If you have any acrylic markers or like white pens, you can use that and add your highlights in the middle. And that was it. And makes it really, really kawaii. Is that having those little tiny white dots. I love doing that. That's one of the techniques that I love doing when it comes to making things look so adorable and kawaii. I just add those little white tiny dots. Even when I'm doing my digital art, I add those white highlights. It just makes it pop and it just changed everything. Gonna go in here and then add my darkest as well. I feel like the dark red is a little too dark, but you know what? We're just gonna go for it. And I feel like I'm not being careful anymore because I'm trying to rush. So don't feel like you need to rush this. If need to finish this later on, you can just add a little bit contrast here and there, and then you can refine things, add more things later. Now when it comes to line work, you can do a black fine liner on top, but with me, I think I'm gonna skip that part and I'm just gonna go with whatever darkest color I have in here, almost like adding some outline to it. So almost going just softly, not too much of a contrast. I feel like the black, if I outline this with black, it will totally change it. Not in a bad or a good way, just different. Does that make sense? So it's up to you if you want to use like a fine liner, the Pitt Artist pens. You can use those to add the outline. It really is up to you. I'm going in with my middle just to kind of like tie everything, blend everything together. Smack. I feel like I need to add more contrast with my green in the middle, but maybe I'll add that later on. But right now I just want to show you what it looks like when you render your work and start playing with your light, middle, and dark value. But it sure does take time. And I'm going in with my lightest again. Yeah, going easy here, that pressure. Easy, tiger. I feel like there's not enough contrast here because this is the crusty things. Should have more contrast there, but we're just going to keep it that way. So that's our so pretty. I'm looking at the camera, but it looks so pretty. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Sarah, you can. I mean, yeah, feel free to use the outline if you want to outline it, your macaroon, or if you have like a pencil, the dark pencil, you know, you can just slowly go in and just kind of like add a little bit at a time. And this will be my outline. You can do this as well. Just softly sketching through it. Just adding right there. And that should be perfectly enough outline for that. You know, I feel like I've lost my jagged lines in here as well, remember? So you can just add that jagged line back in if you want to. I feel like I want to do that for my green as well. Just a little bit of that contrast. And this is where, you know, the detail work comes in now. So it's like that. So you want to add just like that. And then for my purple, I have light, again, middle, and dark. I feel like my light is not lightest, but I think it's good enough. So it's a violet for my lightest. I'm going to start adding in that jagged line here just so I can visually see it. It'll remind me. I'll do that here as well to remind me to add contrast in there. All right. And then we'll just slowly add here as well because that one is touching. So you want to keep that pretty high with contrast right there. So this is my lightest, guys. And then I'm just adding small layer at a time. I'm going to go just move it a little bit. Sorry. Just adding contrast. I feel like I want to make a bigger highlight here right in the middle. This will have the lightest in the middle part. Oh, Sarah, we're going to miss you, but everything, all the classes will be recorded, so you can always come back and watch the replay, but we'll definitely miss you. And enjoy that, enjoy the summer camp. That's going to be so fun. It's going to be a fun adventure. Make sure you tell us all about it when you can, you know, for our next classes. But we'll be here. You know where to find us. We'll be just right here, ready for you when you come back. I feel like I was saying, remember I was saying there's not, I feel like it's too light. Look at this now. I mean, look how much look how much contrast there is. Okay, I'm gonna go in. This will be my lightest now, the light magenta. That violet is dark. Yikes. I should have. Okay, then purple violet. I'm gonna add purple violet just to add more contrast, and then I'm gonna blend everything with that light magenta. Yeah, I was thinking that violet will not be dark, will not be dark, but it is dark enough. I'm gonna go in here because I need to lay down the colors in there. And then I'm gonna add again that contrast. That jagged line, remember that jagged line? We're just going in and bring that back. Oops. Now I have some acrylic markers, that white acrylic marker. It's called the Shake and Paint from Faber-Castell. Remember we used it last week, but we used the metallics set last week. But I'm going to use the white one to add a little bit of that mini tiny dots. It's really going to be so cute. It's those little tiny, things that we add in the finishing touches that sometimes really does change the whole thing. I don't think that the white will change it that much, but it will really add something to it also. Then you can just use the same color markers. If you're not going to use this as a bookmark, if you're not going to fuzzy cut around it, you can add some embellishments, use the same colors to go on the sides and just kind of like add some stars, add some hearts. Now I'm going in with that light magenta. I guess I had it here on my desk on my left side. That's why I didn't see it. This was supposed to be my lightest value, but oh well, it's okay. I'm working my pencils here to just really get in there and kind of like, I'm really not burnishing it, but I'm adding a little bit of pressure just to kind of like blend the two colors in. I'm going to go in here. Go back in here also and just blend everything. And just straight right in the middle, I'm just going to go really light. Now the bottom, we should add some contrast to that because, so I'm just adding my outline just to add some details in here. Now we want to add some kawaii faces. You can use the liner in here, the Pitt Artist Pens is what I'm going to use. Just like that. And I feel like I need a little bit of contrast. Now remember I have the dark, the mauve color. I also have the dark indigo over here. I feel like we can use any of these just to add more of that contrast where the macarons are layered and touching. Just to add more contrast in there. That one really brought the details back by adding this dark right here. Right over here too, if you want to add a little bit more dark in there. Right, but like what I said, I can just keep going and going and render and add more details, but it's going to take that forever. So this is the Shake and Paint from Faber-Castell. These are acrylic markers, so they're really opaque. And it's dual-ended also. It has a 3mm and it also has a 1mm. So for finer, a finer tip for details and smaller areas like that. And so I'm going to use this one just to add a little bit of like white marks here, just kind of like this. I don't know if you guys would see that very well. Let me zoom in and just like that. So we're just going to add, and this will add some textures to the macaroons as well. It's kind of like this, almost like pointillism. So little tiny dots. I'm going really gentle on my pressure so I don't accidentally press on the marker, because this one you can kind of like push on it or pump that nib and it will give you lots of paint, so I'm just going easy on that. I'll just really add more texture to that macaroon. Look at that. Small little tiny ones. Yes, Laquita. I know we love it. Really love this Shake and Paint. I'm so glad they came out with acrylic markers now, especially for details like this. It really does change the game, when you have this super opaque white. I mean, I've loved the white Pitt Artist Pens to lighten areas, that is where it's really, really good at. But when you want something really opaque and really, really saturated, highly opaque and highly saturated, then super vibrant, then the acrylic markers. Can't beat that. Can't beat it. I'm just going in here. So if you have the, a black acrylic marker, that will work for the eyes as well. Okay, and then I'm going to add some little white tiny dots like this. But it's really not dot, it's almost like a mini oval, just like that. It's almost like a little bit of highlight on that very edge of the macarons. I just kind of add details just like that. I know, they're so pretty. But Tina, to be honest with you, I feel like I can spend more time here and just keep rendering, but we're not going to do that. I'm not going to keep you forever. So let's just add some kawaii faces in here. I want to go for simple, really, just the simple kawaii face. So like mini oval, mini, tiny ones right here. I'm using the Pitt Artist pen in Fudenosuke Medium, the FM. This one has a bit more flexible. I'm going to go where it's like calm and just eyes are closed. And then I'm going to add some lashes because you know me, I need to have my lashes in there. And a really tiny mouth to match that demeanor. For this one, I'm going to go do the opposite, go upside down, almost like squinting eyes, where it's like a happy eyes. I'm going to add again, of course, I need to add my lashes. It's like that. And this one I'll make the mouth open. So just a line, slightly curving, just slightly, and a letter U at the bottom. And then from this corner of the mouth, I'm going to bring it down. And I'm going to go shade in this upper area right here. Like that. Now it's up to you if you want to add some blush. You know me with my blush, but I'm just going to color this one pink because it's the tongue. We can add some blush to it. That's going to be up to you. This one you can add just like contrast and it will show you a little blush. Notice where I'm holding my pencil, see, because I'm really adding pressure in here. And I want to be more precise with my shape. But yay! Oh my gosh, that's really it. That's our macaroon. I feel like I want to add blush to mine too now because I feel like that's not fair. Why do you have blush and we don't? Lhey loves us too. So I'm just going to add blush to all of them, guys, because I cannot help it. I cannot. This is it. This is our macaroons. Thank you so very much. Yes, Tina, they turned out so well. I'm super happy. Even though I feel like some of them are wonky, but can you imagine we started with like a vertical, shape, a rectangle, and then we just made ovals, and then we break it down into tiny little steps, and we have this now. So it really is just like that. When it comes to art, I feel like you just have to be patient, really explore. Don't be afraid to make mistakes and just have fun because at the end of the day, no one is going to judge what you've created but yourself. So make sure to be kind to yourself because really it's you. So be kind, speak well to yourself, and have lots of fun. So, again, I invite you all next week. We're going to have another type of illustration. We're going to have lots of fun. But I thank all of you for joining me, joining us. And again, thank you so much, Faber-Castell, for making this class happen. And without all of you being here, it wouldn't be as much fun. But thank you all so much. I appreciate you. Until next time, bye for now. Stay creative and stay happy. Bye, everybody.